3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Northern BC Narratives. Oh, again, is it good? Oh, okay, let's do it again. Welcome to Northern BC Narrative on location. Today, I have with me an amazing bodybuilder and a coach and an assassin named Kendall. Kendall, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me, Zeus.
So talk about yourself a little bit and what you do.
I like to sum it up briefly by saying that I'm a total fitness nerd. I'm a professional fitness geek. Anything that requires movement or energy or honestly just trying to do more and be a good person, I am trying to be all about that right now.
So what is a fitness nerd?
Fitness nerd for me, it means that I'm always trying to find new ways to be able to approach fitness for longevity's sake. So getting quick results, but also making sure that they're things that are benefiting us in a really well-rounded arena. So we're not just looking at, getting a six-pack, but getting a six-pack and then also getting to make sure we have a healthy relationship with food, have confidence, all that good stuff.
Well, Kendall, before I come to Prince George, I used to have a six-pack.
Yeah.
Now I have a one-pack.
Yeah, one pack? Oh, you got a six-pack just under,
I thought about wearing those belts, but it's not. No, I'm not gonna go that low. But it's gonna be a six-pack maybe in a couple of months.
Fair enough.
But one pack is not bad, I'll tell you.
No, are you kidding me? Got to build those muscles from something.
Yeah. So talk about. You mentioned longevity.
Yes.
Longevity. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Talk about that. What is that? What is that exactly? Open it up and let's talk about that a little bit.
I love that. So for me, longevity is kind of just making sure that the things that we're doing today are serving us for our tomorrows and then for 100 years of tomorrows.
Yeah.
So for instance, like when I look at somebody that I'm working with, whether it's the mindset mastery or the fitness, I try my hardest to make sure that I'm thinking, how can this impact the person now and for the rest of their lives, but how can they also impact their kids, their family, their best friend who had surgery last month. So my idea with everything I do is just to try to set things in motion today that are going to help us build momentum and get what we want later on.
Let's talk about it a little bit and how it works, because you explained it, but I just want to see it in action. What is it exactly?
That's a really good question. I think
I'll come to you with my one pack. Let's start right now.
All right, so I'm talking to you. You've come to me from you got your one pack.
Kendall, recently I have gained a one pack.
Okay.
How do I get rid of it?
Okay.
How can I have that 6 again?
Absolutely.
Hopefully 7.
So I know you're a busy guy, right? You're 47 years old. You're a busy guy. You used to have a six-pack, which means you've got a little something under your belt. So what I would say first and foremost, the number one thing people got to do is take care of their basics, their hydration, which sounds very basic, but just drink more water. Drink more water. I'm not sponsored by Big Water. I just think that's something people should do.
So when you say water, what kind of water are we talking about? Are we talking about just pure water, mineralized water, water with salt? What is
I try not to get too fancy with too much. I like to say, keeping it nice and simple, keep it simple, sister, or keep it simple, stupid, whoever you're talking to, KISS. But at the end of the day, making sure that you are drinking, it could be a carbonated water, it could be, sometimes diet soda can help you get to that, decaffeinated teas are a really good option. Essentially anything that's gonna help you get some of that clean fluid in your body so that you can flush out some of the crap, some of the headaches, crankiness, low energy you might get, that's all going to get benefited if you just have a bit more water.
How much water are we talking about? Are we talking about like waking up in the morning and just chugging down a liter, or are we talking about like...
That's a great question. I would say probably 2 to 3 liters spread out throughout the day. For anybody who's just getting started, my recommendation is always to have a glass of water every time you feel like you need to go to the bathroom. Just in with the new, out with the old, and that way you know that you've got something that you're guaranteed to be doing. If you can tie those 2 habits together, you've kind of got a habit for life. And then also, the more water you drink, the more you go to the bathroom at first. It does even out. So it does make sure that you get quite a bit more in there just by virtue of that.
So when you go to the gym, right?
Yes.
You work out like crazy. You get really thirsty.
Yes.
And you drink literally, people I think drink like 3 giant bottles of water.
Yeah.
Is that good for you, or you should be, because like some people they drink the whole day of water in that like literally 1 hour, 1 hour and a half.
Yeah.
Is that healthy, or should you be like kind of like, hey, take it easy, buddy. Just don't drink it all, right? So
100%, because there's definitely some things that you can where you actually get almost like water poisoning, for the lack of a better term, which just means you've had way too much water. But I want to specify and start by saying that's the worst case scenario, and you would have to drink so much. It's not even funny. You would generally feel physical discomfort and then be ill before it was ever an issue. So I would say that a lot of times you see those people with those big water bottles, myself being one of them. We've kind of worked our way up there. We'll start with the regular, get bigger and bigger, and then we actually get so thirsty. It's not that people are just trying to discipline their way through it, or they just are that thirsty at that point. Because especially when you're working out hard, it's not uncommon for you to lose like a liter, exaggeration, about a liter of sweat or fluids while you're working out. So it's really important to replenish that, and that'll help you avoid headaches, cramping, low energy, and it'll also help you recover faster too.
So when you lose water, are you losing minerals also?
Yes, especially when you sweat. Yeah. So you're pushing that out. So one of the other things, you definitely do know your stuff. One of the other things is that you want to...
Just because I have a 1-pack right now, that doesn't mean I wasn't...
You got those basics, 100%. But you're totally right. Yeah, the minerals are crucial because there's two parts of the hydration. There's the water, and then there's the thing that actually makes the water stick into our body, and that's going to be your minerals. So your sodium, your potassium, and your magnesium. So the ways I recommend getting that is pink Himalayan salt. So if you just add a little bit of pink Himalayan salt on your food here and there, maybe add some avocados or sweet potatoes to your meals for the potassium, and that's going to help you out quite a bit.
When you say little, I've seen people go crazy on it. Too much of everything is not good for you, right?
Yeah.
So when you say little, how much are we talking about? A teaspoon a day, or a tablespoon a day, a whole spatula a day?
Absolutely, the spatula pink salt.
Have some cabbage with your salt.
It's very different for everybody. I know some people have high blood pressure or blood pressure issues that are brought on because of too much salt, but some people have blood pressure issues because they don't have enough salt. So I never like to say that anybody, there's one perfect amount, but what I say with salt is to salt your food to taste. So one of the cool things about our body is that we actually taste less salt the more that we need it. So for instance, if you were really depleted on salt and you threw a whole bunch of salt on your food, you're less likely to taste it. But if you had enough, that same amount of salt, you'd be like, oh, this is so much. So when we start to train ourselves to listen to those little cues from our body, it's very much the same with cravings and stuff. We can learn exactly what our body needs and what it doesn't.
My body needs pizza.
Your body needs pizza. That's where the learning part comes in. What it really wants. Yeah. Absolutely. But it will help you with your workouts. You mentioned when you go in working out, that's how you know you're going to be able to keep that energy and stuff. Because at the end of the day, I think it's more about going in, hitting it fast, hard, and dirty, and then getting out. You see those people who are in there for 2 hours and stuff. But there's not really 2 or 3 hours. There's not a ton of ways that you can maintain your energy systems for that long. So if you stay hydrated, hit the gym for like an hour and a half, I think that's perfect.
That's the perfect, right?
Yeah, in my opinion.
But you go crazy. Right? I've seen people that are there for 3 hours, right?
Yes.
This is a new trend now, right? So people go to the gym. I swear to God, I've been all over Canada, and they're sitting on let's say the press machine, right? And they're like, and then texting comes. 5 minutes. My ice is coming out of my.
Oh yes!
Like this, I'm ready for the next, and then I do a circle and finish everything, and they're still on there with their texting, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is this about? Is this a new type of a gym? What kind of okay? You know what? Let's just open it up like this. What kind of a result do you get from that type of a workout? Because some people are there for 3 hours, right?
100%. And it's, resting is crucial, especially when you're trying to build muscle, but also creating a consistency and, that getting in the mindset is important. Because I think there is some statistic, don't quote me on this, but, once we get interrupted by something like a text, it takes us about 13 minutes to get back into the zone, if that's what we're focusing on. So when you think about that, if you're interrupting yourself and it takes 13 minutes, that's the 13 minutes where you're not thinking about how deeply you can get into that rep, how strongly you can lift. So to me, you could get results. And I mean, people do. But also, it's one of those things where you won't get the best results. And again, I'm thinking, for me, it's not about dilly-dallying. I'm not here to
waste time.
Exactly.
Time is precious, right?
We never know how long we're going to be here. Nobody's guaranteed tomorrow. So when I keep that in mind, I think, how can I get the maximum amount of benefit today with the least amount of sacrifice?
That's the good thing you brought up. In a lot of Eastern cultures, we really think about our death all the time. Not because we are afraid of death. This is a concept of human mind, right? It doesn't exist. But you think about it, of your time here, right? And when you think like this, every moment becomes precious, and then you put your energy in the right places, right? Because you wake up in the morning like, hey, if today is my last day, what would I do? And you live your life, your day like that, right?
Yeah.
And it's crazy you brought that up. So, what is your message to the people who are sitting in the gym and always texting? What do you have a message for them? You tell me, I tell them. Okay,
I would say
I have no shame.
Use that phone to set a timer, if anything, and just that timer goes off, you hit your rep. You know, set that timer, and that's actually one of the things that we always recommend in our programs is to have something set so that you know that you are 45 seconds and then you're back in that exercise, because you will be more sore, you'll get less benefits, you're gonna lose less fat. Like it's just, and honestly, that text can wait. You're gonna feel so much more of the happy hormones, the endorphins, if you just put the world outside and focus on you for that little bit of time.
So 45 seconds should be the max you should be on that phone.
It so varies. It varies so much. So for instance, for certain lifts and stuff, I say 45 seconds would be the average. Would be great. Some exercises are going to ask for even up to a minute and a half, like when we're doing deadlifts and press-ups. Yeah, like it kind of depends on the goals you have, whether you're looking for muscle gains, hypertrophy, or fat loss, and then also just the kind of the athlete or trainer you are.
Dear texters of the gyms, please stop texting more than 45 seconds to 1 minute, because nothing is going to come out of that probably, and you won't gain any muscle, and you're just there to hang out, right? Think about us.
And you think you're needy.
You don't want to be needy. Okay, perfect. You know, it's crazy. It's like a pandemic. It's a new pandemic.
Yes.
It's crazy. Like you go into the gym, and lines and lines of people, and everybody. And you know what? When I was in Kelowna, I go to the gym, right? I went in the morning, right? These old people, they're like, I got scared. I never seen, like, they're like walking, like, you know, like they're ready to, like, and they're working out nonstop, and they're just like looking like this. I was like, where's this reality, right? And then I went afternoon, and everybody took the machines, and everybody's on the machines for like 1 minute, 2 minutes, right? And he's like, what am I gonna do? I guess I'm not gonna work out today.
Yes. And I think it's funny that you mentioned that, because I've worked with a couple people who are definitely, you know, they're in their senior years. And I think that there's something to be said for seeing for so many years the effect of hard, consistent work paying off. Because you see these guys where they go in, and women too, where they go in and they just decide, this is what I'm doing, this is what matters, this is what doesn't. And then they dedicate themselves to it. And I think that you see that a lot in people because they've had the practice, right? I definitely hope to be like that. I'm glad you point that out, because that's something that I think I try to impersonate a lot of those people that I see in the gym, because I'm like, you know, like you see this guy who's 82 years old and he's pressing 300 pounds on the leg press, but you will not see his phone a single time in that workout. And I just love it.
You know, funny enough, when I was there, I saw this gentleman. I think he's 75 years old, all muscle. Right, 75 years old, all muscle. I'm gonna work out. I don't like to take breaks. For some reason, my body doesn't need breaks. So maybe I have 3 seconds of break, and I can go nonstop. Right. Okay. So I'm used to it. My mind is always like that. It works for me, right? It might not work for anybody. So he was doing the same thing as me, right? He's all muscles and things like that. I'm like, we might do a documentary on him actually.
Okay.
So I started talking to him. I said, hey man, like you are working harder than everybody here. And I'm like, what do you do? Then I find out he's a musician. He has multiple businesses. He always like has a powerful mindset. And he goes, listen, the older you get, right, the more you want to get in shape, because you start losing muscles as the age goes down. Am I right? What is that about? Because your muscle weight, your muscle mass keeps going down, right? Yeah,
for sure. So there's definitely different reasons that it could be hormones, lifestyle changes, but I think more than anything, it comes down to that lifestyle change. So people are thinking, I can't not tell you how many times I've heard, I can't do that because I'm too old, or if only I could be 20 years younger or whatever. And it drives me insane, because one of the demographics I love working with are people who are in their, you know, past 65. They're looking to get fitter than they were in their 20s. And watching people be able to actually do that is incredible to me. So I think it's a mindset thing as much as an application of, you know, you've got this muscle, but if you don't use it, you will lose it. So that's something that I think that you stop hiking as much, you stop canoeing, you stop going to the weights if that's your thing. And that doesn't have to happen. But of course, there's certain things that lead to that. Maybe your family life slowed down a little bit. Maybe, you know, you're feeling a little less energy. It's just one of those things that I think that we have to remind ourselves that it's possible. And I know I always sound so tongue-in-cheek as like mid-20s saying this kind of stuff. But again, I've dedicated, honestly, the last 8 years of my life towards this mission of helping people be younger than they were in their 20s. And I'm obsessed with it. And that's kind of coming back to the professional fitness geek. I'm always finding new papers to read up on, new studies, getting new certifications to make sure that I'm bettering myself as a fitness therapist, so that I can help these people to say like, hey, we're not just walking the walk, talking the talk, excuse me, you are going to walk that walk, and you're gonna get those results.
What are some of the results that you've seen? Let's say somebody comes to you and they have no muscle, the old. So what are some of the results you've seen?
Wow, I have some pretty incredible ones. The ones that actually jump to mind are definitely, everybody's got the muscle gain and the fat loss for sure. But the things that jump to mind as being really special are the things like, I have a gentleman who came to his late 70s who really is struggling with balance and was stumbling and falling quite often. And now it's just not an issue. We've got him doing all kinds of these athletic jumps and movements.
Stumbling?
Yes.
So why did he lose the balancing muscles or like?
So sometimes what happens when we have diabetes is that we lose, which is the case for this gentleman, we have lose sensation in our feet in certain parts. So it makes it harder to be able to tell like how to spread your toes when you are stumbling or something, or it's harder to tell where your feet are kind of in space. It's called proprioception. So our job with this guy was to help him, get that feeling back in his feet and to be able to trust himself and build the confidence in his movement again. And in just a few short months, it has been, I'm getting calls from his wife, I'm hearing from his family. It's incredible to hear the difference. And then, sorry.
No, I'm listening.
Oh,
I'm very excited in this subject.
Thank
never
you.
talk about this stuff. I've seen you all over, but this stuff never comes out.
I appreciate this question that you're giving me the space to talk about, because this is actually, this is what brings me.
You're lighting up. You're so excited.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I feel it. I love talking about this stuff. I have another gentleman who came in with severe scoliosis. And
What is it?
scoliosis is a curvature of the spine, so it can be any...
Curvature of the
Exactly. So in this case, it's a lateral, so it goes sideways, whereas sometimes it can be like, front to back. So this particular person has a little bit of this going on, and it was incredibly painful, and it was starting to lead to a lot of implications in their life on top of some other medical stuff. So once they found out, their doctor said, maybe we should try just weightlifting, just to help with the weight, because the excess weight's gonna, excess body fat's gonna cause a lot of pressure on that spine. So this gentleman came to me, but the idea of just losing fat wasn't enough. I'm like, that's superficial. We need to get deeper. So what we did is we started a really in-depth training program to try to, you can't straighten a spine once it's been curved through scoliosis, but we can slow down or stop the curvature. So what we did is we trained really, really hard, and then his doctor actually reported back there was a 0% increase in his curvature from the 2-3 years that we've been training together now. And that is one of the things that in this planet I'm the most proud of, because that was, the doctor said that wouldn't be possible. And then we got the good news just a few months ago. So that just is amazing.
Run me through the process, what you did, and what were some of the challenges for you? Because it's challenging, right? It's not like...
Exactly, and that's the thing is, a lot of this stuff, most of the things that are inspiring in life are never easy. That's why they're inspiring, right? Or the things like, it's got to be hard, otherwise it's just a thing someone did. So what I really admire about these people that took these challenges is first, the step for them to reach out and get help, because I know for me, I'm able to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but when you're in that place where you're the one who's injured or you're the one with this challenge,
you lose hope, right?
You lose hope, So it takes a lot of bravery. So I'll say that's definitely the first step. But then from my end, it's making sure that I'm really trying to listen to what people are saying. I'm trying to put myself, as weird as this sounds, in their body so I can feel the pain, so I can imagine how that would react if we did a certain thing a certain way. So trying to be as intuitive as I can with each person, and then just trying to use all of the stuff I've learned through my studies and just trying to really stay up to date, because everything changes so quickly, but trying to use the newest information, the most proven information to essentially strengthen muscles where they need to be strengthened and loosen muscles where they need to be loosened, so we can create an infrastructure for this person so that they have like a brace made of muscle.
So what are some of the exercises you run him through?
Lateral raises, lat pull downs are my absolute go-to in this particular instance.
Oh, because it's straight to spine?
Exactly. So because a lot of times when we're doing weights, we have to lift the weights and it's coming from the ground. Whereas when we're on a cable system, the weight's actually pulling upwards. So it's helping him to get a significant stretch through that torso. But then when we pull down, it's all emphasis on the muscles, but again, zero tension added to that spine.
What do you think about what the heck they call them? There's these things that you lay on and you just, I forgot the name right now.
Inversion tables.
Inversion tables.
Yes.
I knew it was inversion, but I forgot the name.
Yes.
So do you ever use those things, or what do you think about those?
So I personally don't use them just because they're a little bit, they can be a bit aggressive. So I'm not a physiotherapist. I'm a fitness therapist. I know it sounds like, it's just essentially I'm.
Now, what is your opinion about it? I mean,
about inversion tables? They're phenomenal. I just wouldn't want to work on somebody and then have them. I do the same thing as an inversion table, but instead of hanging them from their feet, I get them to hang from their hands. So that way it's nobody can fall on their noggin. If anybody lets go, they can land on their feet.
Do you use it yourself, the inversion tables, at all, or no?
I have before.
Have you used it?
I've used them before. I personally, I didn't like the feeling of the blood rushing to my face. I know it's very silly.
Talk about, I don't know what I heard about them, right?
So what they are is you lay in a table like this and you click your ankles into one end. It's like a torture device. It doesn't hurt, but and then you flip yourself upside down like that so that you've got your head down to the ground, your feet up. And what it does is it lengthens your spine and allows things to have just a little bit more flow, a little bit more fluidity. But I don't like the upside down. It's just a personal thing. So I'll have people hang on from our pull-up bar, and then we do like little gentle torso twists and stuff like that to be able to loosen the spine up a bit.
Oh, that's amazing. Wow, this is such a great subject. So you concentrate on his, I guess you concentrate on the mental health, right? You have to as a fitness person, right?
I concentrate.
No, you have to. I mean, because you have to convince them that they can do it, right?
Oh, convince for the, okay, yeah.
How does that work? Tell me, because I know it's hard, right? Sometimes when you see somebody that has given up, right, you have to kind of convince them and then get them to the mental, because mental is first and is physical, right? So how do you do that? Talk about that a little bit.
That's a really good question, because that's probably, as a coach, one of the bigger challenges that I face and that I have faced in the past. And it's like every day we try to find new ways to overcome it, because people are always going to bring new challenges towards us. So I would say when it comes to that, a large part of it is just knowing that the people that we're working with, the way that we've kind of orchestrated our business, the people who come to us are generally in a place where they're looking to make that change. I learned very quickly that I'm not able to drag that out of somebody. If they don't want change yet, then it is best for everybody until they wait until, whatever that barrier is for them that is really holding them up. And that takes some really, really deep internal work. And a lot of times that does take mental therapy or mental counseling. But then let's say they're over that, then the biggest thing for me is to make sure that they know that they always have somebody in their corner. So I'm not doing that angry drill sergeant.
Oh, that doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
Especially right now with these kids today, right? They get emotional.
Exactly. And I mean, I would too. Don't get me wrong. But it's one of those things where I like people to know that, like, if you have a success, I'm probably going to cry with you about your success. You know what I mean? In a happy way. I think just like leading with my heart first, and then just showing people that on their worst days, they're gonna have a friend. I know it sounds kind of silly, but I think that in the beginning, it's about a companionship and an accountability. And then as they start to open up, then we start talking about, what is it about what version of your inner child is hurting and then keeping you stuck in this place? Because usually the reason that we're stuck here and in the future is because of the thing that we're holding on to from the past.
And how long does it take for you to do that with them? Usually, some people it takes a long time. But how does it work? The process?
It's incredible, because one of the things I love about my job is the fact that I have to come into every single day like it's my first day on the job. So I can't treat really anybody like the person before. Everybody's just so different, and that's my favorite thing. So for instance, some of my ladies it'll take months, and some of my ladies I'm not sure if they've even now, or I would not too much. I have one lady who's a little bit more closed off, but generally I would say it's usually, a couple weeks. I've got some guys who will come in once they realize that what they see is what I get. There's no mask here. There's no faking. This is just what I am. Then, we're hitting the ground running. So I've had people come in and we're crying day one about, things that we've been through and things we're going to move towards and stuff like that. So it can move really, really quickly, and it can also take a little bit of time, but I always try to be cognizant of where people need to be met, versus trying to say, come here, meet me here now, because this is how I like to train. So I try to meet people where they are.
So when you do a lot of stuff like that, right? Sometimes you take people's pain on yourself. Sometimes you think, how do you deal with that yourself? Because you have to make sure that you're okay, right? How do you fix that, or how do you do meditations? Do you do to protect yourself, because you have to protect yourself, right? When you
absolutely.
Sometimes some stories are crazy. Like you hear them, it's like, oh, really, right?
Absolutely, that's a really good question. When I was 18 is when I got started in this, and I actually worked at a clinic where I would take people on for sort of medical issues. And there was one gentleman that I remember working with, and he had a really rough day. And I remember he came in and he told me all about it, and there was some really challenging subjects that were brought on. But I was 18 at the time, and I remember thinking to this guy, like, he doesn't know the kid. He doesn't know that I'm just gonna take all home. And so that's when I decided that, first of all, I was gonna start pursuing therapy, which I think is wonderful for everybody. I love therapy, whether things are going right or whether things are going wrong. I want to know why. But then on top of that, realizing that I wanted to pursue my own counseling certifications so that I would have the the information, not to be a counselor, but to be a counselor for myself. So to know when I need to back off, to take a little bit of time to not internalize, right? To just make sure I'm not soaking it in. And then, of course, having done this for a few years, I'm getting much better in the moment of hearing, but not soaking it into my heart, because at the end of the day, I'm not helpful. If I'm feeling what you're feeling in that deep state, if I'm right there with you, then I'm not able to help pull you out. If I'm in that hole, no one's out of there to pull us out of it. So I like to make sure that I'm empathetic and I'm listening, but I'm also not trying to own that person because, or that pain, because it is their pain. I have no right to own it.
What are some of the things you do to protect yourself against that? What are some of the techniques that you use yourself?
I would say probably just, again, trying to proactively be like, this is, making the decision ahead of time and realizing that one of the stories I'd written about myself is that I was empathetic. They're really felt everything other people felt. And I hurt for quite a few years. So realizing that I could still love people without having to feel that pain was a big step. So that was number one. And then if it happens, if I feel something, making sure that I'm taking the time to decompress. So I used to say that I would just work it out, like go in and work out, because I don't want it to, physically manifest in my body. But now I'm getting better because that's also an output, doing things that are kind of more input for myself, more crafting, reading. Sometimes I'll even just, like you said, meditating. So being quiet and thinking, what would I want to come out of this next 5 minutes with? And then just sitting there for 5 minutes and not judging myself if I don't get the conclusion or not. But usually I'll have one thought on my mind or one question where I think, this is a question I'd like answered. Meditate on it for 5 minutes. If I get an answer, excellent. If I don't get an answer, we'll try again tomorrow because it's a practice.
That's amazing. What are some more success stories that you have about these kind of things? Because I think, because that gives you a deep insight of who you are, right? And what exactly you do. I didn't know any of this stuff myself, right? So.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's I really care about people. So honestly, anytime, it's so hard to say because I've been involved with fertility projects where I've gotten to hold a newborn baby on the day that they were born, and that was probably I would say is one of my reigning moments. Just to be part.
How do you fix that problem?
That one was extremely in-depth. So that was something that I was doing before. I was working with a science team that I had available with me. So I would develop programs and then I would send it over to these awesome teams, scientists and doctors who would be able to tell me how things were looking, what I could change, that kind of thing. And then we'd go back and forth. So essentially it was just making sure that the people had the right amounts, just the right balances in their system. Because when we're talking about nutrition, we've got our three macro carbs, fats, and proteins, but then it goes so much deeper in that, how the foods interact with each other, the micronutrients, just all that kind of thing.
Talk about the interaction of foods together. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Oh, for sure. That's something people have no idea, are often surprised when they find out that foods like, let's say you eat popcorn, for instance. Everybody tells me they love popcorn because it's a low-fat snack.
Full of salt and butter.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the salt, I could get behind the salt. But the butter and the popcorn itself, right? Well, first of all, corn there's a reason farmers use that, for their livestock. There's a reason. And it's so full of sugar, it causes such a reaction in your body that it just stores a lot of fat. So pop on its own. But then all of a sudden you add these carbs plus these fats, what it does is it makes like a fat storage bomb.
So you're talking about the butter and the salt.
The butter and the popcorn. The salt is kind of okay, actually, in this case. It's the butter and the popcorn itself, the corn, the kernels. So those make like a little fat fat storage bomb. And the same thing happens when you have bread and butter, or bread and cheese. Cheese is a little better, it's got protein, but on the other side of that, to be the bearer of good news, is you can reverse that. You can make it so you store less fat by eating certain foods, by eating more protein. So if you're gonna have like a snack, something that's maybe a little bit more delicious, full of cheese, chocolate, pizza, then pizza's a great example. So instead of getting pizza where you have bread, the crust, and cheese, extra cheese, cheese topping, try to get the most dense protein that you can get on there. So all of a sudden, when you eat this protein, it slows the digestion of the other two macros, and that essentially makes it so that your body's more inclined to use that pizza as fuel versus store it as fat.
Oh, I learned something new today.
Yes, I've done it.
You have to, everyone, you have to pay for the rest of this program. We can't charge you for this.
We're getting in deep now.
So when you say, so popcorn and butter,
right,
becomes sugar?
The popcorn technically is its version of sugar. So carbohydrates are they are essentially sugars, and they respond that way in our body. So when you put the sugar with the fat, you can just see why that would be, nice little combo. There's a reason to put it this way. There's a reason it lights up our pleasure center so much. It's because our body knows it's kind of not that good.
Oh my God! You know what? When I invite people over, if I don't like them, I'm just gonna give them popcorn, and I just be sucking on a steak.
Oh yeah, exactly. Just every time they come over, just like, you sure you don't want more popcorn?
Hey, popcorn, but extra butter for you.
Serious sabotage there.
So, what are some other carbs that they're like this, right?
Oh, some of the carbs are great.
Some of them that it's like this, it's dangerous like this. It's not good for you. But once your sugar goes up, right? If it goes up all to do that, you could get diabetes, right?
100%. And there's definitely some like genetic predispositions and stuff like that too. But you're totally right. Overindulging in sugars, it can mess up your systems and stuff like that. And essentially, I would say, the things that don't give you, it sounds silly, but nutrients, like when you're talking about candy or chips or baking a lot of times, donuts, that kind of thing. I know all the fun stuff. Fast food, honestly, is always not great for us. I know it's all sounding like really, I don't know anyone in this room that's having those issues.
People everywhere's like going like this, no?
Right? Yeah. But the good news is, again, even if you do indulge in those foods, if you do have more protein with it, you're going to have less negative effect. It's not going to be better for you necessarily, it's just going to be less bad for you.
Talk about that a little bit. Just expand this a little bit. This is becoming very interesting here.
Of course, I love it. No, absolutely. So for anybody that's trying to lose weight, again, going back to your question, if you're trying, exactly, 1 pack to 6 pack, that would be my next thing. So first thing is always drink more water. The second thing is always to eat more protein, because protein is going to make you feel more full. So it'll make you crave those other things less. And then it's also going to make it, when you eat those other things, it gets, absorbed in our system a little bit better.
So I have a question. I heard that whole wheat or not whole wheat really doesn't make that much of a difference. Is that true? Because it's the same, it becomes carb again, right? So
yeah, it's one of those things where honestly everything's so processed nowadays in terms of that it used to be that whole wheat bread was generally seen as less processed and less bleached, that kind of thing, but it's not really the case anymore. I say if you're looking for a healthy bread, your best ways to go are sourdough and rye are really good.
Rye?
Yeah.
I used to have rye. It tastes so bad, but it's so good for
It's so dry. I don't like it. But sourdough, however, I would sleep in a loaf of sourdough if I could. So
yeah, it's very good because it's bacteria. All right, so it's good for you.
It is. It's a little bit different that way, and then also it interacts in our body a little bit different as well. Just has less of an impact on our sugar levels.
I know the first time I had sourdough, I was in Halifax, right, went to school, and I'm like, what, I need to look healthy, right? So the first time I remember, I put a piece of rye in my mouth.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I say sourdough raw, but when I put it in my mouth, it sucked all the moisture out of my mouth.
Yes.
It was even drying my eyeballs. I was like, what is this, And then, I'll top it off with cheese to make it more better.
Yeah.
But still, right? So it was very interesting, but it's good for you, right?
It is. It's not. Yeah. And again, it's kind of like I call them red, yellow, green. Yeah. Green is going to be food that's good for you. Yeah. Yellow is going to be food that's kind of like indifferent or bad for you and too much. And then red's foods that just not good for you. So I say rye bread's kind of like in that yellow. It's kind of just going to be a neutral. Yeah, not necessarily good for you, but not bad for you either.
So when you say green, what are we talking about? Are we talking sprouts, vegetables?
Yeah, so when we're talking about green, we're talking about everything that's like jam-packed with nutrients, so vitamins, minerals. So veggies, definitely things like, I love sweet potato because they've got that potassium. It's a
cheat sheet to the mashed potato, right?
The sweet potatoes?
Yeah.
It's like absolutely delicious. I'm not sure if you ever tried it with just a little bit of like sugar and cinnamon too.
No, I put a lot of gravy on it. I was gonna say.
different routes. There's two ways. You got your savory and you got your sweet. If you ever want to go down the other road, it's very good. If you go the sweet direction, lean into the sweetness of the potato, it's so delicious.
Cinnamon and what?
A little bit of sugar and a little bit of cinnamon, and then I either will mash them or I'll bake them. I'll like make discs and then I'll spin and then bake them, and then they make like it's just the most bizarre, delicious thing. Yeah.
Is it good for you? It doesn't make you gain weight?
So if you were to lose weight, then you would want to do the sweet potato and stevia instead of sugar.
Stevia.
But then the cinnamon's actually great for you, yeah. Initiate certain things in our body that help us burn fat and stuff like that.
What's the difference between that and a potato? Let's say I have a sweet potato here, right? Then I have the same size actual potato, right? So I would eat them both similar. What is the difference? What I get from the potato what would I get from the sweet potato?
I find sweet potato to be better tasting, but also
Yeah, it's so tasty, yeah.
more nutrient dense. So it's going to have, like, potatoes are very starchy, and sweet potatoes are to an extent as well, but they're going to have more vitamins and stuff to balance that out. So I really can't put enough emphasis on the potassium. There's a little bit in potatoes, but just definitely more in sweet potatoes. However, potatoes are an amazing food. They've got so many vitamins. They're actually, if there was a study they did, and they found that if we were to go through like a famine, everyone should start growing potatoes, because that's going to help us a lot. Yeah.
But that's what they did in a lot of wars, eh? Because potatoes grow so fast, right?
Yeah, so fast is so good for us.
Just to be clear, I just want to make sure that people know that you're not talking about deep fried potatoes and things like that, chips and things like that. That's not ready.
No, exactly, because then we come back to that same problem with the grease and the oil, right? Is that we're coming back to now having the potato with that fat combo. So it's like, because what happens is our when we put carbs in our system, it essentially raises our insulin levels, and our insulin says we're going to take what's in our blood right now and store it, put it away, because it's making our blood sugar high. So what happens is when you have the carbs creating that insulin response, but you also have all this fat in your system because you've just eaten that, then the insulin's just going to push it all away, essentially, put it away for future use. So it's one of those ways that I always call it the fat storage bomb, because it really does. It just takes it, and it just immediately, it panics, thinks it's a bomb, and it stores it away. So that's one of those things where if you eat the protein, it slows that down, so your body actually has the chance to break it down for
I'm having a heart attack here today.
I come to bring fear.
I'm just like, it's one of those, I was just like, oh man, what have I been doing lately? You know what?
It's nice to know, though, because sometimes it's that kind of stuff. It's pretty, when you realize how easy it is to turn it around a little bit, like have a little bit less fat with those carbs. Like, it's not about taking everything away. Just find one or two things you could tidy up a little bit, and it'll make a huge difference.
What deep fried chicken?
That's a bad one. That's a hard one. So the oils and stuff, a lot of times they're going to be your trans fats, your bad fats. Fats are so complicated. They even change when you cook them. But I would
They
say
become toxic, right? Cancerous, all that stuff. Right?
they absolutely can, and they can go rancid, essentially just kind of giving you the opposite of what you want and stuff. So yeah, that's the problem with the oils, is for the heat's sake, and then also the fact that it's just the kind of fat it is. But I would say when it comes to that, trying to avoid as many animal fats as you can. So things that are leaner are good protein sources, like chicken and
well, not deep fried, right?
Like that. Not deep fried, exactly. So you want to try to have humans' hands touching it as little as possible. That's the way I shop, and that gives me a lot more freedom, because then all of a sudden I'm not thinking, I can't have this, I can't have this. I'm thinking, like, does that look like a million people have had to slice it up, fry it, process it, put it in packaging? Then I probably don't want it. Whereas if you look at something and it kind of looks like it just came off the animal or the tree, then that's going to be something that you know is kind of a little bit more what God intended us to eat.
So basically, what you're saying, anything that is deep fried is not really good for you, right?
I'd be surprised to find something that was, yeah.
Okay. So what about fish? Pan fried in coconut oil. How would that do?
That sounds awesome. I think, and I should know this off the top of my head, coconut oil could be one of those ones that goes a little bit rancid if you cook it too high. But that's even not one of those things I think that's like so far down the road, I think in the first steps. Pan frying your fish in oil, or even avocado oil would be perfect, is a really, really good option for making sure that you get good fats in there, because now we're talking about MCTs, good
Just
fats.
pause for a second. I think my nose is so.
No worries. I'm actually, while we're pausing, if you don't mind texting, I'm just gonna text my mom.
Yeah, sure. Oh my God, the guest has left the building. We are done. Oh, this is interesting subjects, eh, Kendall?
I love it. Thank you for these questions. They're amazing.
We never talk about this stuff. What? Oh, lady, yeah. We're still recording on mics, so we have to be gentle on the audiences. No, that's amazing. Like, you never talk about this stuff. Like, I've seen your stuff. You never talk about it. I don't know why.
It's funny because I think a lot of times it's hard to get as deep into things. Like, the questions are often a lot more about. I think some of the. I don't want to say superficial, because I love all the interviews I've been part of, but it's also nice to get to a new avenue, a new route to go down with these.
That look weird. Oh, this camera. We are back. You think I'm crazy? You gotta, when you do film and things like that.
Oh, of course, gotta have that.
Especially, when you direct films and things like that, you have to be a little bit crazy, because it's a crazy thing to do. So much work, right? So, okay, but what were we talking? Okay, let's just see. We were at the. Retake. Shall I say that? Good. Retake. boom, boom. So let's talk about fishing in let's talk about cooking the fish in coconut oil.
Yeah.
How is that? Like,
So when we're talking about cooking, when we're talking about cooking our fish, awesome. Because when we're talking about fish in general, we've got our omegas in there, which are such a healthy fat for us.
Yeah.
But then adding, coconut oil or avocado oil would be a really good way to make sure you get your other good fats as well.
Yeah.
So coconut oil, sometimes I believe it's one of those ones where you have to mind the temperature that you cook it at.
Yeah.
But even that is more advanced. I think honestly, just to be getting those healthy fats at all is a really good start.
what about butter?
Butter is going to be one of those ones that's going to have a little bit more of the trans fats in it as well. So a little bit, you want to kind of try to avoid the animal fats as much as possible.
Serious?
Yeah.
I
So
literally have about 10 organic butter, unsalted.
big fan. Well, yeah, no, it's one of those things where, again, if you have it in moderation, it's not going to be too bad.
No,
but-
just to cook it. I don't need it.
Oh yeah, no, of course. But it's not going to hurt you, especially if you're trying to live an active lifestyle, if you're making good choices elsewhere. I mean, these are things that are always, we're kind of talking optimal here, but there is a lot of space between where most people are and optimal, myself included, right?
So, okay, so we talked about cooking the fish in a pan. Now, if I take the same fish and I deep fry it,
Yeah.
what would happen?
So then it's going to be a different story because generally the oils that we use in a deep fryer are going to be much less healthy.
Yeah.
We're going to have just more of the trans fats and stuff like that in there as well, which are just, they don't break down nicely in our body. They tend to be the things that are more dangerous for us. And also when we have those bad fats, it's going to be the things that start conglomerate around our liver and we get that kind of, they call it fatty organ syndrome or fatty liver syndrome. And when we start getting that internal fat, that visceral fat is when it starts getting dangerous. And the problem with that is that you don't know necessarily from the outside. You couldn't look at somebody and say that person is, has a visceral fat because they might not show it on the outside. They could be very lean on the outside and look skinny, but on the inside, we can't see that there's all this tissue around the heart and the organs and stuff like that.
Oh my God. This is the first time on this show we are going to break some people's heart. So, Kendall, let's talk about, name some of the food that are fat bombs.
Some food fat bombs, gotta hear pizza. I gotta say it right off the bat. So anytime you can think of something that's gonna be greasy, that's gonna be usually a fat storage bomb. Greasy and something that if you can incorporate grease and bread, that's gonna be an issue. So pretty much, honestly, if it doesn't have a lot of protein is what I recommend, or I would say is
name a couple. I know pizza is number one.
Yeah, pizza, I would say burgers, french fries, cake, all baking, candy, that kind of stuff. Anything that's got fat and protein and carbs exclusively. A way to fix that would be like, for instance, you said you had your rye and cheese. If you added tuna to that, like rye cheese and tuna, like a tuna melt.
Then it would be healthy.
Then it'd be much healthier for you, yeah. Or even a slice of roast beef or chicken would be much better for you, yeah. And it's nice because it adds sustenance, so now you're feeling less full, you get less cravings, and you know that the food did eat that was more, filled those endorphins a bit more. Those are not getting stored as fat as quickly because you had the protein.
What about rice?
Rice is great. Rice is awesome, actually. You don't want to lather it up in butter, which I know can be done, but definitely like soy sauce. Soy sauce is a really way to get some sodium. It has no calories. I absolutely love rice. I'll actually just douse mine in Frank's Red Hot. That's amazing.
Oh, Frank's is good.
Yeah.
So do you eat brown rice more or do you eat white rice more?
I'm not picky. I
It's the same
personally
thing, right?
prefer brown rice. Yeah, but it's the same thing kind of thing as the white bread to brown bread. Honestly, if I prefer to break it down into main foods versus those micro details because what I find is that it's so easy to get overwhelmed. Whereas if you're eating the rice at all instead of the cheeseburger, you're doing a great job.
There's this thing, it's called Beyond Meat now, it's very popular.
Yes.
There's like literally 100 ingredients in it.
Yes.
And you don't know what you're eating.
I don't,
You might as well go smoke.
I don't know about the Beyond Meat. I haven't tried it yet. I know my fiance is very interested in that kind of stuff because unfortunately the way the world's working, we're not going to have access to the same protein sources the way we used to. So they're already starting things like cricket farming and stuff like that.
No, I don't even go there. That's like, that is sick.
It's the future, buddy.
I'd rather die.
It's crazy.
I'm telling you, because it's so bad for your body. I did a lot of research on it. There are some things in it that the human body can never absorb, but they're not talking about it. And there's actually some weird parasites, right? So the human body is not really designed. We don't have the system to digest that type of a food, right? I mean, in some cultures they do it, right? But animals, they can process it, right? You need totally different system for your stomach. It's a huge, it's a canvas you go inside of it, right? I was thinking about it because they keep pushing it, right? So body's like, it's horrible. When you get really deep into it, I don't even know if you're supposed to talk about this, but you know.
No.
Yeah. You can,
It's interesting because it is the way the world's going. I mean, people kind of don't think about the reason that prices are going up so much in terms of food and stuff is because there is so much demand, so little farm space. You know, these animals are getting treated in ways they shouldn't be, and so of course, rightfully, people are getting upset about that, and things have to change. That does lead to a whole other conversation about health halos. So foods when you see organic or grass-fed or whatever, and unfortunately.
Hormones and things like that, that's causing a lot of problems now, right?
It is, but the problem is that is as much the case in those foods as it in those organic, the foods that say that you think would be better, that they charge so much more for, are actually that much difference. The best thing you can do is honestly shop local. We are very fortunate to live there, you know.
There's so many here.
Yeah, in northern BC, we have so many different opportunities to be able to get farm fresh food, which is so crucial because when you look at the way that these organic farms or these free range farms, they only have to have like a tiny little spot for 10,000, 20,000 chickens. They only have to have, I think 5 feet by 5 feet or something. But anyway, it's a farce. So all that to say, I also want people to know that you don't have to go in and go for that super expensive. People always tell me that eating healthy is so expensive because you got to go organic, but you don't have to do that. It's honestly, again, coming back to trying to find the food itself and then going deeper and deeper into it as you build. Don't worry about that right off the gate because then you're going to have so much on your mind.
So what are some of the food that you recommend, right? So you know what? What was sushi?
Sushi's really good. Fabulous. Love sushi.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Maybe not as inland as we are now, but.
So, Kendall, what are some of the food combination you should not mix together?
Again, it just comes from if you can keep your breads from fats, so that would be like your butters, your oils, stuff like that. And then eat protein with everything you eat. No matter what, if you can eat protein with everything that you eat, just a little bit, whether that's a little bit of nut butter or a bit of like meat or something like that. Or also there's things like yogurts or different breads, like English muffins have protein in it. All that to say.
English muffins is good?
Yeah, English muffins are really good. They have 5 grams of protein per one bun, so that's not too shabby. So when you start doing things like that, it's going to make sure that you are getting the most bang for your buck for your food.
Okay, let's talk about some of the good food that you can eat. Except crickets, but
I don't recommend eating crickets. Just put that out there.
You saw the latest movie, Aquaman. Have you seen it? The last Aquaman.
No, I haven't. I haven't yet.
He's tricking his brother to eat bugs. It's so funny.
Oh, does it?
It's so funny. He's like eating. Yeah, I mean, he's on the surface all the time. And he believes it. He starts eating it. It was so crazy. So talk about some of the good food. Let's start from the best food that is good for you, and some of the things that you take yourself, and then let's go to the medium food. We know all the low quality food already.
Sure, it's probably going to be pretty boring. Honestly, it's the good kind of what you imagine. Just like I said, stripped down protein. So just like having, I love chicken in Frank's Red Hot. Oh my God, chicken in Frank's Red Hot is so good. I'll have that all the time.
You had mayo?
What's that?
You had a little bit of mayo?
No.
Kendall, why?
I could, I guess. I don't know. Well, I did with keto.
Is it okay for you if you add mayo or no?
So mayo is one of those things. It's quite high in fats. It doesn't always have the best fats for you. I used to get an avocado mayo that they have at Costco.
That's what I get.
Yeah, so good. That stuff's
that's
delicious.
Good. Oh,
yeah, it's a little bit better for you.
Just a little bit better.
But I believe it has omegas in it too, which is really nice, which the other ones don't necessarily. So that is not too shabby. And then we do need fats. So people think that we don't need fats because they've got such a bad, but there's good and there's bad. And the good stuff is going to help us regulate, avoid injury, think straight, all that good stuff. Yeah.
What about ketchup?
But in terms of, you're fine.
Ketchup, I just...
In terms of food that's really good, I would say, just paring it down, just your basics. Just if you can grow it or you could farm it, like theoretically, if you had enough land, then that sounds like a pretty good option. Yeah, if you could like if it again you want to try to aim for food that looks like food that it once was. Yeah.
Have you thought about? Do you do sprouting?
I haven't.
Okay, so what do you think of sprouting? It's becoming huge right now. Everywhere I go online, especially TikTok, every sprouting now.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of health issues. I think a lot of people panicked with COVID and stuff, and a lot of people are focusing on their health a little bit more, which is amazing. Yay.
So something positive.
Whatever it takes to people that place, I'm happy. But I haven't tried myself because I'm a bit of a brown thumb when it comes to anything that other than tropical plants. But that is amazing because it's just the superfoods, just the greens, the a lot of the vitamins and stuff that we don't get and that we kind of think are underrated but aren't. That's what people are getting from those superfoods.
You can find it in the sprouts.
Yes, a lot of times, depending on the sprouts you get.
There's a guy, I keep seeing on TikTok. So he does like, because usually when you do sprouting, you have to put it in a tray, and it's so much work. I don't do it. It's too much work, right? But this guy, what he's doing, he's taking the sprouts and he's growing them in a jar. His kitchen.
Yeah.
It's like I never thought that's possible.
Oh yeah, people are doing all kinds of terrariums and stuff like that.
There's all this new stuff coming out. So what is nutritional value of like sprouts and things like that? Like especially broccoli sprouts and things like that. Do you think is it better than going and buying a cabbage from the store or?
It's sustainability. I think it's cheaper. It's fun. Also, people are bored. I think that you know what's in it, which is really nice, right? I think it's harder. It is harder to imagine to grow sprouts. Like I also grow my own. We have like a client garden that we use. So when people,
you do. You have client garden. Hey Jeff, let's go tonight. We're gonna.
Well, things aren't bloomed yet, but just making sure that people have access to things, right? I'd say that it's nice because people are more inclined to use the sprouts if they're there in front of them, whereas they might forget if they go to the grocery store. I will say I haven't seen it strike too hard in people. It's a really cool thing to do, but it's not a mandatory by any means. I think it's definitely those things that people are just going that extra mile because they have the time and the resources.
I don't like sprouts, to be honest with you, but I will eat it when it's in a rice wrap. You know which one I'm talking? I think it's Vietnamese. They put the sprouts in the rice wrap.
Yeah, like a spring roll.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's nice and clear, and then it comes with a beautiful sauce, which I think is not good for you.
That's fine. Once in a while, that's the thing too. Is it's about balance. Like even myself, as somebody, I used to compete for almost a decade in competitive bodybuilding. I don't really worry too much. Once you get like 80% of it figured out. Like I had Oreos 2 days. I had like a flat of Oreos.
I had a whole pizza yesterday.
Yeah, it happens, and that's the thing. It's
every
with
night.
people, and that's the thing is I think it's all about in coming back to that longevity. We can't do anything. Full throttle, all out, hyper restrictive forever.
Because you'll be miserable.
You'd be miserable.
You need to have that once a week.
We're supposed to be alive. The point in doing all of this is to look good, feel good, and do good. So we can't do that if we're starving ourselves or if we're not feeling nourished in our soul. So I think that once in a while, absolutely, go out, have, the few beers with your friends, have that pizza, but know tomorrow what you can do to, first of all, feel good about the decisions you made so you're not hitting yourself with the guilt stick, but also know how to handle yourself moving forward so that you don't have to have any consequences, if any at all.
You think they talk about apple cider vinegar.
Yes.
So if you, I guess, they say, I don't know, I haven't tried it, if you have a little bit of apple cider vinegar before a bad meal, it can have a little bit reduces the thing, but you don't want to do it too much. What is that? Do you know anything about that?
It's a little bit. It's definitely one of those things that can help. Generally, I recommend.
But it's not the way they describe it. Like, it's changed my life.
Nothing is the way they describe it. That's the only thing that's the way they describe it is drinking enough water. And the reason why is because everybody's just too different. So some people would have a major reaction to apple cider vinegar, while some people don't.
You have a guess.
But I always kind of say like those little things. Anytime you hear one tip that.
Beyond all, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like if you can't imagine the cavemen doing it, it couldn't have been that important, because we evolved this far without it. So I am not saying it's not something that will help, but it's not something that is mandatory. Like for instance, I got some really high placings at some big shows and stuff in bodybuilding, and I barely worried about my apple cider vinegar. Yeah, so it's one of those things where I think people are so looking forward to the magic fix, the thing that's going to make it. But at the end of the day, the only thing that can make it work consistently is giving yourself the body what it needs to function through water and nutrients, and then just giving it the time to make that all happen.
So Kendall, what's the perfect diet?
That's so I cannot even say.
What would you recommend a good diet? What would you?
A good diet would probably, I would say, just throw out like numbers. If I was to throw one on the planet, I would say 40% protein, 30% carbs, and 20% fat. And then on that, I would say you wouldn't want to eat within 500 calories of the amount of calories you burn a day. There's certain equations that you can find on, just Google it, honestly. Google calorie calculators and you'll be able to find that. But honestly, eat the rainbow. Eat as many different colored vegetables and meats and proteins as you can. Try to stay away from things that are highly packaged or have a bunch of colors on the label. I find if it has a bunch of colors on the label, then it's probably not going to be for you. Whereas when you see something that's got styrofoam, saran wrap, that's all the food. That's what it is. You know what I mean? So trying to go with the least processed food possible, and then honestly eating things that you can enjoy. Because if you go and you have to gag down white eggs or egg whites every morning, you're gonna hate the idea of weight loss, and you never needed to do it in the first place. So I think it's all about finding things you like.
I did that for a while when I was young and I was out a lot. It was horrible.
Yeah, it's no good.
After 3 months, I couldn't do it anymore. My face would change. It's just crazy. What is your diet?
Right now, it's really loose. So, like I said, I eat very intuitively. I eat kind of what I feel like when I want to. I look at the options I have each given day and think that's the better choice. So, for instance, I eat a lot of yogurt, a lot of protein, rice, that kind of thing.
Oh, what an interesting thing. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about some other stuff. So you are a competitive bodybuilder.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start how you started, and then go through the journey.
Sure, yeah. I'm no longer competing, but I did start when 18 years old. I had just seen one of my friends at the gym, and I thought she was cool. She was just walking on the treadmill in her stage shoes, and I thought that was the coolest bird. And so I asked her about it, and she just told me. She's like, you can do it. And then I think once I realized that it was something that you could just do, I was sold. So I stepped on stage in Prince George. It did horribly, and then it all kind of.
How you started the workout? About that.
Oh, how I started to work out.
No.
I
Because so you saw it. You saw your friend, right?
Yeah.
To get to the first competition, right, or even to go on stage, what do you have to do to get there, right? It's not just you go there and just text on your phone and you get, the results.
No.
So what do you have to do?
Extremely restrictive bodybuilding. So I unfortunately at that time didn't have the coach, the right coach for me. Yeah. So I was doing
you were
things
18,
really wrong.
right?
I was 18.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Let's talk about
Yeah.
it.
So I didn't have the right coach for me. So I was training like a gentleman, which I shouldn't have been doing, like 3 chest days a week and stuff, which was ridiculous. But it was essentially just working out to a rhythm, eating the way that I was supposed to be. But that prep, I would say, was so poorly managed on both sides that there wasn't. What I should have learned from that was to get the right help. And that was the biggest learn from that. But the next prep is actually...
Wait, what were some of the mistakes? Talk about that. Because you said that you were working like a gentleman. So ladies and gentlemen work different? You work out different?
So I was being trained by a male coach who was training me like a guy. So yeah, it was just he was having me go to the gym way too often. He's having me eat way too much. He was having me do no legs and all chest. So pretty much that was it. But when I went to the show that actually won was the next year, and that was crucial because the other prep was a farce. It didn't technically. I didn't know what I was doing, and I had very, very bad. I had no shoes to follow. Let's just put it that way. So now when I decided what I wanted to do, I had the right help and I dove into it full throttle. Then all of a sudden I'm sure that I'm not missing a single workout. I'm getting up at 5 a.m. for those things that I need to do to make my schedule work. I'm taking the day to make sure that I'm doing the meal prep and stuff. It was really hard. It wasn't easy and there was a lot of sacrifice in that time. But because I fully enveloped myself in what I was committed to at the time and gave everything to that, then when that phase was over, I had a million skills that I could count on while I was doing the bodybuilding and living my regular life again. So after that prep, I was able to set enough in stone because it was just that commitment to the goal, commitment to the result, and then I was able to make it so that it could kind of not be on autopilot, but certainly be a lot easier.
Talk about some of the things you did to get there. So talk about the food prep, and then talk about the type of workouts you did, and then I'm pretty sure there were some days you didn't want to do it. So let's talk about some of that.
Yeah, so the workouts I kind of did on my own because I've always been intuitive. I prefer to just work how I'm feeling, any given day. But I'm also quite self-driven, so that was never an issue. The food was, again, very boring, kind of just like I mentioned earlier already. Just that stripped down proteins, the rice and stuff like that. Again, there's nothing special about it. It's just everything that we've talked about, just done the best I can each day. So it makes it so that I'm consistent and I know what my results are going to look like. But also, it helps me to know how to coach people because I'm living that real life too.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Because
exactly.
you went through it, right?
I went through it.
You didn't come out yesterday and say, hey, you actually went through it, right? So
yeah. But as a natural bodybuilder, I've never done steroids or anything like that. So that keeps me right in that realm of I'm just doing what everybody else is doing, just with a little bit more intensity at that point.
It's crazy how people do steroids, right? It gives you fast results, but it gives you lifelong problems, right?
The fast result is honestly debatable. It's so tragic for me to see what it's done to our industry. That's the reason I no longer compete, is because steroids are so prevalent, and at the end of the day they are drugs, and they are people who are getting into unhealthy lifestyles. I've lost so many friends. They've lost their lives to steroids and to the lifestyle.
Talk about that a little bit, because not a lot of people talk about it, right?
For sure. So I would say, without getting into
too much detail.
Yeah, it's challenging because it is drugs. There's just it's a way into different lifestyles. So all of a sudden you're hearing people who are involved with different kinds of crime, or they're struggling significantly with their mental health. I had a friend who almost passed away from a pituitary tumor because when they went in and told their doctor that they felt like they had low testosterone, the doctor said, well, they weren't a doctor, excuse me.
Friends.
They were a naturopath. But it's a doctor, naturopath. Anyway, they prescribed this person testosterone. They prescribed them steroids. And even as a Christian, they didn't look into the reason why this person's testosterone was low. So a couple years later, this person has this tumor blows up. He has a pituitary tumor that was covered by the fact that they'd been doing steroids, now blows up, and his hormones are so wild because he's been adding in all this extra, and all of his natural blockers have been out of whack because of his pituitary gland, and all that to say that we actually almost lost one of my best friends because of the fact that he was prescribed steroids to help him get more results and to help him feel better in bed and stuff, when in reality what he needed was a life-changing surgery to take this tumor out of his brain. But they didn't know that until it was too late, because of the fact that a lot of times when you see these symptoms, you just slap the Band-Aid on, but the problem is that we need to fix the problem.
You know, a lot of guys, as they hit maybe 35 or 40, they go on testosterone therapy, right?
Yeah, TRT.
And it doesn't make any sense, because like where I come from, we do a lot of fasting, right? So like 3-day fast, 4-day fast, it actually brings back your testosterone.
Well, and again, everything's different for certain people, like autophagy.
Some people shouldn't never do fasting. Right?
Some people, yeah.
But you have to maybe get a doctor to check you, right? To see if you can do fasting. But there's a lot of research that is coming out that when you do prolonged fasting for men, it boosts your testosterone.
Yeah, it's kind of like a bit of a survival defense thing that your body does, and it also has a lot to do with something called autophagy, where when you fast, you autophagize your system, which essentially means you pull all the crap out, and that just makes room for everything that needs to happen. The problem with the people hopping those test boosters or test replacement therapy and stuff like that is oftentimes it could be the wrong reasons. Like somebody's going through maybe a divorce and a depression, so they feel.
It goes down as a guy, right?
Exactly. Like I've just recently helped somebody through that, where they had gotten divorced, immediately started doing things to make their wife jealous, like get the revenge body kind of thing. And
she's gone already. Why?
Well, I mean, I get it, because these are hurting you to look better, right?
It's a buddy. She's gone. Why do you have to go impress anybody?
But a lot of times it does come down to something like that, where there's always an X factor. It's deeper than just wanting the muscle. So it's a shame. And that's generally when it happens. I've also seen it happen, it happens so bad in bodybuilding is the pressure, like you're either going to get this or you're not. Even myself, I was told at one point that I would lose certain avenues and sponsorships if I didn't participate in steroids. So
are you serious?
Yeah, and I was really grateful because I had the other people I'd actually wanted to act on. I was very young. Like I said, I was 18. I was impressionable. So I thought I was going to go talk to someone and see how I'd set that up. And it's embarrassing now because I'm so steadfast in my belief system now. It's hard to say that I ever wasn't. But this person that I went to talk to about it was kind of known as being a bit of a who would be able to provide me with the information I needed on the subject. And he actually told me, he refused to give me any information, refused to tell me where I could get anything, and told me that I'd be throwing my life away if I'd ever made that move. And it was bold. The guy didn't know me from Adam, but I have valued that person, respected them so deeply, because that changed my life forever. And it was only a short few weeks later that I lost my first friend to steroids. So I'm really grateful for that person who turned me around, because I had so much pressure to do it. As a young woman, I was 18 years old. I can't imagine for the guys, right? Like I just had to build a little bit of muscle. For those guys trying to make those world titles and stuff, I can understand the pressure. Yeah.
This is something I had no idea about, to be honest with you. I didn't know that when you go compete, they actually try to they tell you like if you don't get these steroids, you lose your things. Talk about that a little bit because that's unheard of, right? That's very important for a lot of people that are getting this, right? So
It was a matter of not doing as much for the team as I could have been to getting the, according to them. I should have been able to make those sacrifices to improve my physique, to do better for the company. And that is, I'm no longer, obviously, I've been with them for a long time, but by axing that out of my life, by tethering that connection, which was really scary because I thought that was, me make as a fitness person. I actually was able to connect with the business that I worked with for, as I'm sure Magnum Nutraceuticals. They are the next people I talk to, and the reason that I was able to connect with them and they became part of my family is because they are 1000% about that natural approach. So having someone tell me you are going to throw everything away if you don't do this, and then have someone else who's way cooler, way more impressive to me, tell me that I would have thrown everything away if I had done that. It's amazing. It's funny though, because we get faced with these challenges and we know we're making the right decision, and then you take that leap of faith, you do what you believe in, and it'll all work out.
how do you felt when they told you that?
I was angry. I was really angry. I was very young. I was very much I was already at that point.
How old were you at that time?
18.
18. They wanted you to do.
Yes. So that would have been for the show that I actually won. So I had done really poorly at my first show, and then the next show that I'd won, and they wanted me to continue that momentum with Euro stuff. So I wasn't about it. I was also into the wellness and coaching as well. So I couldn't validate, getting all the synthetic gains, which you still have to work for is the other thing. You still have to put the work in, don't get me wrong. But I couldn't take steroids and then coach everybody and tell them I'd done it naturally. Or even just coach someone and it wasn't my walk if I'd done. So it was really nice to be able to, I was angry, but it wasn't that hard to convince me to go another route because it was what I believed in.
You're like a lioness.
Oh, thank
Most
you.
people are when you put them in that situation. Because as soon as, peer pressure, right? It never has gone away, right? So as soon as, somebody, if it was somebody else, they were thinking, hey, I need to do it for myself. I need to do it for my career. I need to do it for my team. Then they start judging themselves. Then you have a loop, and then they go do it actually. But you made the decision not to do it. That shows that you have a lot of strength and things like that. So you're not easily intimidated when it comes to stuff like that, which is very important. You want to talk about that a little? I
appreciate that. Yes, thank you. That's something. Integrity is massive to me, and I think that we have to live with integrity in every moment, whether we're in front of people or not. To me, it's one of those things where you can't let somebody push you around. I want big things in my life. I've known since the time I was a child. My parents came up and they tell me this story. I don't even remember, but they said that I was crying in my room, and when they asked me why, I said I'd always thought I'd be living like a princess. And I always thought I'd live different. And so they told me that, don't stop pursuing that life. Go get that life because you've always wanted it. And so I've never really been okay with the idea of somebody trying to dictate something for me because I'm here to build my dreams and the people I love and the people that, it's a transfer of energy. I'm not here to be a minion for someone else. And so there's even been times that have come up where I had some really important people, not paying me or for marketing and stuff like that, or even just some really unfortunate personal stuff came up where I had to sit down and say that you will never like this again, and it was so well received. It's hard to dig in your heels sometimes, but to be able to say that this is what I need, this is what's going to happen, and it's scary, I remember sitting, having one conversations and making sure my hands were below the counter because they were shaking, but I wasn't that come through my voice. I was going to stand because you have to believe in something, and then if you have that and something to believe in, you got to stand up for it. Otherwise, what's the point?
I always say that you have to let people know where they stand, right? And then you want to be with people that they're your team members. You don't want to be people, if they're pushing you around, they want something out of it.
Yes.
Right? That's the problem. Anytime you get pushed around, there's benefit somebody's getting that you're not getting, right? So that's amazing.
I appreciate it so much. I think it's so important, especially, not just for young women, but anybody right now. We need to be
strong,
individuals.
Because if one thing we talked about that's very interesting. People think they live forever. right? You might not be here tomorrow, right? So you might as well enjoy your life and then do it the way you want to do it, right? A lot of people, they live other people's dream, right? That's why, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
So you have your own business, right?
Yeah.
So you could have went and worked for somebody and then make their dream bigger, make their company bigger,
Yeah.
right? But doing your own dreams, which is very important. And not a lot of people, they do it that way, right? So it's difficult, it's hard, right? Talk about how hard it is.
It's
Because
definitely
it
hard.
is hard.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate because it's kind of all I've ever known. I did have jobs before, so I had a couple jobs that I loved. But when it came down to, I knew that I was sent to this planet to do something and to help people.
Grand, right?
Something big,
Yeah.
and something, it felt like fitness, and it felt like in this kind of coaching avenue seemed to be really natural for me. So when I myself at the clinic where I was doing the more the medical programs and stuff like that, I was finding that I was having all of this potential and all of these ideas, but I had actually been sat down at a table by my boss. He told me to stay in my lane, and he told me to not learn outside of what they were teaching me, because, you know, I think maybe they saw the threat. They saw that I was excited, that I was more passionate about this than any one corporation could contain. So after that, and the gentleman had been quite drunk when he said it. I just couldn't. There was a level of respect there, even though I loved what I was doing. I realized I could not do this for anyone else. It was so horrible, this moment, and it was just 3 of my bosses sitting in. They'd all been drinking, and just telling, you know, you need to stay in your lane, keep your mouth shut, and just learn what we teach you. Because I'd been connecting with the science teams and getting all of these amazing programs involved and stuff. And they'd been interested in that. So what it did for me is it made me so angry, but so confident that I was obviously doing something right to have ruffled their feathers so much. So I ended up leaving. It was, I remember, just one of the most terrifying days of my life, because I was a kid. I was just bought my new house. It was craziness. So in that is, again, coming down to that leap of faith, having that conviction that I was in the right place. And there were times when I wanted nothing more than to just get some job. I would work anywhere, let me work on, I would save whatever, you know, like the idea of being an entrepreneur seemed like, how could I possibly have thought this was what God wanted me to do? But, you know, you have to raise to the occasion. You need to have that abrasion to be able to turn into the diamond. So I'm really excited, because I feel like the more challenges I face, the more able I am to face challenges in the future.
You know, weak people, they hate when you outshine them. Strong people, they come and shine with you, and then everybody goes up together.
Yes.
And that's an unfortunate reality on this planet. Most people, they don't want you to shine. They want you to just use you and then go up yourself. It's rare that you find people that they shine with you.
And I think that that's probably in my life the biggest thing. Fitness is definitely a part of my soul, but the biggest thing I think that's been transformative in life lately has been that I changed my atmosphere in terms of the people that I was around. And you're right, I stopped being around, I call them crabs in a bucket. You know, you know about the crabs.
Everybody knows about everybody has been the, you know, that's trying to go up and everybody's pulling.
Exactly.
Crazy,
I don't want to get down, so I had to fill myself, you know, I don't want to be a crab anymore. I don't want to be around crabs. So I filled myself in a bucket full of awesome go-getters. We're all building ladders to get out together, and it's amazing because I'm surrounded by people who believe in me and I believe in them, and you know, we are able to do incredible things together. So I find that when I was trying to do my philanthropic endeavors and stuff, it was small and weak, but now I'm able to team up, and there's just so much more strength and unity.
No, you're right. I work with a lot of people, right? But I let go of a lot of people and the reason for that is what you're talking about, right? Now we all have smaller team, but every member of that team is like compared to 20 people. That's how things. You know what I mean, right? So probably your team is not huge now. They're smaller, but the strange person brings is like 20, 30 people, right?
Yeah.
And that energy just keeps you like vibrating and moving, right? Everybody's talking about positivity and what is possible, right? And there's no I can't. You know, there's always a possibility. You know, it's like that, right? Or
100%. I would way rather have 5 comrades than 20 followers, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's what I found. I found comrades. I found my peers. And that feels good for me for a self-development and purpose, but also just for in the moment, I can, you know, talk to these, have an interest in what they're saying, and not talking about things that
Yeah.
I prefer to be sleeping through, you know, and not to be rude, but you do have to find
It's the
people who light
truth.
you up,
It's the
right?
truth. See, like
Yeah.
I personally, if I'm talking to somebody on the phone, and it's not going anywhere. If there's any type of nagging, if there's any type of negativity, I don't participate.
Exactly.
That's gonna take my energy down. You know what I'm talking about, right? Especially area, right? So
There's something that I really like. I believe it was Robin Sharma that said it, and I could be wrong, but he said if we knew the power of a negative thought, we'd never think another one again in our lives.
Yeah.
And I love that so much because I think like I don't really know the power of a negative thought. I like to think that I have an concept. I know how negative, like how detrimental it can be,
Yeah.
but that always had so much for me because if we really knew the depth of it,
Yeah.
we could change our lives forever by just thinking a little bit less negative.
you know, it's like a black hole.
Yeah.
I'm serious. You know, as soon as somebody talks about negative, and then somebody else talks about it, it's just the hole gets bigger, and then you know, and you're getting sucked into that, and then you're whirling and whatever that takes you.
100%. And so just to add this part, there's also, we think like 60 to 70,000 individual thoughts a day, each
Yeah,
person.
it's crazy.
I know. And out of those, 96% of the thoughts are the same as they were the day before. So you have to think about what thoughts are we repeating, because we get can't even do. We got 4% chance to be able to make a difference in our thought patterns, to set a new tide in our mind. So if you're filling your thoughts, if you're filling your attention with these negative people or these negative concepts, then there's a great chance that's probably going to be part of the 96 that gets repeated tomorrow.
Yeah.
Whereas if you hang out with really positive people, maybe that's what we bring over, right?
You do. You could make affirmation cards for positive stuff that you want to add every day.
Yeah.
Right. So that's another way I do it like that, right? Because you have to program your brain.
Excellent.
If you don't program somebody else's program for you.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's maybe even one of the things I love the most about physical training is just that it's just such a metaphor for physical or for mental training.
Yeah.
Because I had to do the curls and the squats and make the body grow and change to be able to that work pays off.
Yeah.
But now I know that pays off. So even though I can't see it changing in here, I have the faith. I know that something's happening.
Something very important that I want to talk about, and is, you know, when you're doing a business, right? When you have a goal in your life, when you want to make a difference, right? You have to be with the right partner. I see a ring on your finger. So talk about your partner a little bit, what kind of a person that is and what they are contributing, because it takes a team of two, right? Or you might as well be alone, right?
It does, absolutely.
I know he's like training with you also, right? He's a trainer. So talk about him. What are some of the benefits to have somebody who's like-minded be a part of your team, right?
I have a question because Tyler is my partner. We've been together for 11 years now, and we've always been very, very connected. We were friends first, and that never left our relationship. So he's my best friend in the world, and then to be able to get engaged and we're getting married. There's just it's such a blessing. In terms of the business, it's beautiful because I'm an ideas man. I love to make things happen and make connections, but I'm not always the most tied down to some of the things that we do, getting it down on paper, getting the things organized, you know, that kind of stuff. So what Tyler, the role that he plays in my business and in my life is helping me make sure that I can do the things that I want to do and not lose track of who I am or get too messy in the meantime. So it's funny because we even did the personality types, and our personalities couldn't be better suited for the two roles that we play in our own personal business. Where Tyler's doing a lot of the tech, a lot of the behind the scenes, and then I'm kind of being out there, being loud, being proud, and doing that kind of thing. And it works so beautifully. I've never had an issue working with Tyler. We run marathons together and it's fun. And I feel very fortunate to have somebody that I like as much as I do. I'm him to bits, but honestly, that won't get you through it. I think it's when you like somebody enough to want to, you know, not see them hurt or to see them succeed and to want to even be my best self when I come to the table. I don't want to be cranky because I know that he doesn't deserve that.
Yeah. So what are some of the ways that you guys grow together? Let's talk about that.
How we go together?
Grow.
Oh, grow together.
Because you know, start from a point, and then as a couple, when you move, right, you have to change, right? If one person change, then the other person falls behind.
Yes.
But the scenario is you change and grow together. So talk about that a little bit, because I think that's what's happening with you.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, you know. I always like to say we're two trees growing in the same pot.
Yeah.
So it's really funny because there are absolutely some times where I've been on an awesome trajectory of growth, and it takes a lot of time and energy, and that, you know, he's being so supportive of that. He'll come in with me, and that means there is less energy to be focusing on what he's got going on, but there's always a cycle. So for instance, I've gone a couple years where I've had really big years like that, and then Tyler comes in when I'm done the competition. Then now we're focusing on Tyler's comedy and we're focusing on his writing. For instance, right now he's actually starting a business as well. So we grow together by it's an ebb and a flow where sometimes it's 70% me and then sometimes it's 80% him, but it's one of those things where we're never trying to make it 100% about either of us at any given time. And sometimes it's beautiful, sometimes it's 50-50, but rare because the way that life works, sometimes it's just that give and take. And I think we found such balance of it that we're just finding ourselves around things that I thought I'd see by now. I thought I'd see, resentment or boredom or that kind of, but there's none of that. It's just, it feels very much like we're still in the honeymoon phase of our relationship.
That's amazing. I think about it is, because you work on your dreams, right? Some couples are selfish. They just, one person wants to do their own thing, and then the other person want to do their own thing, and then you separate, right? But when you work on each other's dream, it makes the relationship last much. That's how you see people, like, they never separate. They stay, grandparents were like that, right? They stay till the day you want to leave this place, whatever it is, right? So, and it's a joyful experience, it's a joyful existence, right? Because the alternative is horrible, I've seen.
Yes.
It's like people don't get along, but stuff like that. So that's really amazing. Do you have any advice for people?
In terms of the relationship?
Yeah.
In terms of the relationship, I think that the biggest thing that I can do is try to think about what I'm putting out there, how much of it is because of Tyler and how much of it is because of me. So for instance, if I'm feeling aggravated, like where am I actually coming from here? Like what am I bringing this? It does make it easy because Tyler is an extremely easygoing guy. He's very easygoing and also I can't fault him for very much. So usually I can count on the fact that it's me being a bit grumpy. But I would say honestly, also just the communication. I don't think that there's anything in the plan I wouldn't tell Tyler, and he knows everything about me. And I know that might not work for some people, but I know for me, if I were to ever mess up, Tyler would know. And if Tyler would ever mess up, I know. So it's not a matter of you promise you're never going to cheat on me, and he better not. But at the end of the day, I also have a massive amount of comfort that knowing if anything would happen, I would know exactly what it was. There's no ghosts, and I like that. I think that we can both have a lot of faith and confidence in each other when we know that there's nothing hiding in our closets.
Oh, that's amazing. Talk about how people can find you, and what is the process of working with you?
Oh, thank you so much. So if people want to find me, they can absolutely find me. I am on the Instagram, the Facebook, the TikTok, and the Twitch, all under Little Fit Kendall. So that's kind of like my online name is, I think I'm probably best known as Little Fit Kendall. And then, of course, if you'd like to email me to talk about whether you want to work, if you work with, want to do coaching, if you honestly, I would love to offer for anybody that watches this, if you want to do a free consultation. Is there a camera? This one? All right. If you'd like to do a free consultation and you are watching Zeus's program, then absolutely, please reach out. It's kendall@thelittlefitco.com or www.littlefitco.com. And I would love to be able to break some stuff down for you.
Okay, one more question. I forgot it when I was thinking. Let me see.
I'm a derailer.
No, because my mind is like, there's 100 things going at the same time. I was going to ask you. I don't remember. God.
This isn't nerds at all.
Let's see. There was something really important actually. Oh, okay. So when you do videos, your TikTok videos and all that stuff, what kind of videos are you making?
Yeah, so when it comes to my YouTube, I really try to make content people are able to apply. So whether that's follow workouts, how to fat and weight loss habits, that kind of stuff. Just things that people can really use. So those are kind of all on my YouTube. I try to make that very much my professional space. TikTok is my play space. So my TikTok is where people can find little photo shoot behind the scenes. I'm very much into pole fitness recently, so that kind of I post on there. And then on my Instagram and Facebook are generally where you can see more of my clients, more of, again, the life that I'm living as well, because I like for people to see, that it's not just about living in a gym. I've spent very little time in the gym considering, it's more about finding the things you love to do and staying active through them.
I don't know if you're doing this already, but I think it would be interesting if you dedicate some of your videos talking about the personal journey, and especially to do with the pressure of steroids and things like that, because I think there are a lot of people are going to come to you for that and talk about it. You're going to open up a lot of other people that are interested to talk about that. And if you do podcasts with them, that would be very interesting. Because I didn't know about this, that they put so much pressure on you to get this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I think that would be a good angle to start doing some stuff with it.
I appreciate that so much because it is one of those things that I think I don't want to step on anyone's toes because I do understand the application. It's major
But it's not
in
for
body.
everybody.
It's not, and
So
I
you
would
might-
like.
you save people. You'd be saving people's lives. I'm serious. To especially ladies, right?
Yeah.
Women are not supposed to.
Because you don't need to do it. You don't need to. And people think you do, but you don't. And,
Yeah.
you know, people had been saying that I was on steroids for a long time because of my muscles when I was competing. And thanks for the compliment, of course. But also, I'm like, yes, but know that you don't need to do it because that's, you know, like I said, try to eat the carbs, eat the protein, stay away from the bad fats, and you will get there.
No, but seriously, talk about some of that stuff. I'm telling you, you're gonna get a lot of followers.
Yeah.
Then there's a lot of people that they're afraid to talk. Maybe you can be the voice for them. Maybe that's one of the reasons you're doing this, right?
I appreciate that. I would that to be a voice for people, to be able to help someone in some small ways,
Yeah.
all I could ever ask for.
Okay. So anything else you want to talk about?
I don't think so. I want to say, Zeus, thank you so much for having me on. This has been so incredible. I absolutely I appreciate the fact that you would invite me and ask the questions you did. And of course, thank you to Jeff behind the scenes. They're doing a fabulous job. But you guys have made this an amazing atmosphere. And I'm so excited to see what you put out there.
Perfect. It's a pleasure having you on here. Thank you for coming on the show. And I learned a lot today.
I'm so glad to hear it. I love to be able to get this off. There's so much I've been excited to talk about. I appreciate it so much.
No more pizza for these people.
You got to get the Pizza 73 jingle out of your head, man. I'm telling
I
you.
will tell them, you know what? Give me low cheese. Some. She'll just fill it up with chicken.
Load it up with chicken. All the chicken. Yeah, exactly.
Man. Oh, I have a whole block of cheese waiting at home right now. Thank you very much for joining us on this episode of Northern BC Narrative on Location. I hope that you enjoyed this and you learned a lot of things and you learned how to follow your passion, your dream. But we ended. Why is it important to follow your passion?
Why is it important?
Yeah.
It's important to follow your passion because we only get a finite amount of time on this planet, and we can't even guarantee it's 100 years. In fact, we can rarely guarantee it's 100 years. You have to find your passion because at the end of the day, I believe we're all here to just add a little bit of light to the planet, and you cannot let that be extinguished.
Beautiful. Have a good day. See you later.